What's up, you dirtbags? My name is Luke Agerbrotten, and I'm joined here with my co-dirtbag, Mr. Luke Payne. How's it going, man?
Mr. Luke Agerbrotten, I'm doing fantastic. It is wedding week. We are ready to get married, and yeah, doing well, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing excellent. It's one of my favorite days is always jumping on and recording. It's just fun to put a few back, obviously talk with you, but then usually we get to have some special guests on. And today I'm extremely excited. We've got a very special guest. Luke, you said you've been following him since 2018, which is
Yeah.
basically when you started Black Iron. So without further ado, we got to welcome in our guest today, Durbin Whitmer. How's it going, man?
Gentlemen, pleasure to be on the show, and
Cheers, Durbin.
glad to be drinking with you. Cheers.
Absolutely. Durbin,
Yes.
what do you got in the glass there?
I got Jameson Irish here, and it's mixed with a little bit of lemon lime, and I got a
Nice.
cherry mix standing by if I need more.
There you
Just
go.
in case, see
sounds
what we get into on the podcast here.
Yes,
So
sir.
A little Jameson. I love a little Jameson. I used to love, not to make this about me, but I used to love Jameson gingers. JMO gingers is what I would always get at the bars. Those are good.
Interesting.
Yeah.
yeah. So Luke, I know right before we started, obviously, big week for you. Obviously, you were about to be in Michigan on a job helping Dylan, but you decided to take the more mature route, maybe the better route for the sake of your marriage. But you're staying home, getting work done, and you got a big Saturday coming up here.
Staying home, decided it was just not in the cards to do that at the moment. Would have been a blast, but yeah, we'll have to be another time. So staying home, making the wife happy or the fiance happy. We're not married yet, so I can't call her that yet, but we're working on those brownie points. So
Yeah, big congrats. I think you made a good choice.
well, thanks, Durbin. Appreciate it. I think she would agree with both of you.
Yeah, good stuff. So Durbin, super excited to have you here. I think you and I relate to each other, and you and Luke relate to each other in super completely opposite ways, I would say. And how I first started jumping onto your page was, taking a look at what you guys are doing. And really what stood out to me is how you're niching down, but your content strategy on Instagram and everything really stood out to me. So I'm curious to kind of jump in. I know we got a lot of people listening that maybe are just starting, they're a few years into their company, or they're 10 years in. No matter what, they're starting to look towards, this content game, not just for getting new projects, but for hiring, their next workforce. So if you could talk to Luke and I a little bit about how you got started in like developing some of that content on your Instagram page, Dig at Excavating. Like if you could kind of walk us through that, like that whole process and how you got to the point where you're at today.
Yeah. So we started the business. I started the business in 2005, and generally, everybody had a not a Facebook, a phone book ad. And so I was like, okay, wow, there's a list of excavators here. I put my face on it at the recommendation of my brother-in-law. He said, make it personal.
Yeah.
So we at least made the phone book ad personal, and it just seemed very expensive, and it just seemed like I was like lost in the sea of, oh, turn to page 65 to see our half page ad or whatever.
How expensive was a half page phone book ad? I have no idea.
You know what? I kind of forget what the prices were, because it has been probably 15 years since we had a phone book ad, maybe more. But I know it was a high percentage of our marketing budget.
Yeah.
So I think, my brother-in-law was saying, hey, look, everyone's getting phones. They're all searching on their phones and stuff. This is the way things are going to go. So let's pull the money that you're spending. Let's start to, develop an online presence, because one of the things that I noticed, and I was doing septic stuff, not just excavating. So there was kind of two different paths we could go down, and there was really no educational type material for either one. It was just kind of a sea of bulldozers and backhoes on a page, and cut and paste junk online as well. So I moved into an area that I'm not known for as far as a last name. Like, you know, maybe Egebraten is like a well-known name in your town or something. I didn't have that.
It is, surprisingly. I don't want to jump in front of you, but Luke's dad was the coolest cop in town.
There you go.
So yes, funny that you say that. But yes,
some people think it's great, some people don't, and obviously I think it's great. But yeah, there's the name gets thrown around a lot.
yeah,
Yeah, so it was like, what's going to set us apart from the other guys? You know, how can we be noticed? How can we provide something that's not there? And I on the septic side was like, you know, people are so ignorant about their septic systems. They have no clue that they even have one half the time. They don't know that there's ongoing maintenance that has to happen. They don't know that they could put a riser in there and pump it very easily. They don't know that there's effluent filters, all this kind of stuff. They're like, you know, what's the number one thing that people say when they call and need their septic tank pumped? It's full. The shitter's full.
Yeah.
You know,
Clark,
and I laugh and I'm like, okay, it's going to be full in another 3 weeks. You don't know that. And I was like, we really have to start providing information for
Sure.
our clients to keep their systems working, and then also be kind of an eye catcher. Hey, this guy provided me with educational material. I kind of like his business. I like his format. I like his image. I like his employees. We're going to hire him. And so that was kind of the brainchild of coming up with names that had a relevance in Google searches,
Yeah.
and also almost a call to action, like dig it. Yeah, can you dig it? Yeah, okay. So all of a sudden you start jiving with guys my dad's age,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and stuff like that. They just think it's cool. And pump that septic. It's almost like a call to action. This is something that you have to do. And so when you search these keywords and stuff like that, we wanted to have relevant keywords within our name. And we wanted to make it look cool. I was like, you ever see the Mr. Clean guy,
Oh, yeah.
folded
Arms crossed, buff,
yeah, and
shiny
he's
head.
got a earring in his ear, and he's just
Yeah.
like, he's gonna clean, nobody's gonna get in his way. And I liked that image. And I was like, you don't go to a dentist when he advertises his front teeth knocked out, or something like that. So why would you use a septic company that's got a crappy old truck falling apart and drips oil all over the place? So let's build a septic company and an excavating company that's top notch, that looks good, and that actually provides information that nobody else has the time for, or they think it's irrelevant. I'm digging dirt, man. I don't want to take pictures. I don't want to shoot videos, that kind of stuff. So my brother-in-law was really at the forefront of that idea. So we come up with names. He developed the logos and stuff like that. And of course, I throw stuff back and forth, and I don't like it. And he comes back. And so, there's that process of,
Yeah.
10
The
changes.
process
and
of
then
elimination.
then you go back to like the second one you had, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, all right, this is it. After 30 of them.
Yeah, so whatever. So that was kind of how we started to steer into the world of YouTube, Google Business Listings, Facebook, and then when Instagram and all of those came out, I was like, dude, I got to do a business page for this too. This is great.
Yeah.
And that's where I think we got ahead of the kind of the corporate curve on Instagram with our following and stuff like that. So, and the content is cool. Everybody loves a Caterpillar machine and stuff.
Oh yeah,
like that.
hell yeah! You're preaching to the choir now. There's my kind of talk. You had me at Google listings, and then I was like, what? And then I heard cat, and I'm like, I'm back in.
Yeah,
It's a good mix of both of our worlds, Luke.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of where it started from. We started with the Dig It brand, but then realized a pile of dirt and an excavator doesn't speak to the septic maintenance crowd. So we really had to steer that into a completely different direction, and kind of in that franchisee look, and that's something I would love to do, is franchise it. Actually have a guy in Montana that's kind of talking about it, and a guy more in the Lansing area. So there's talk of it. It's
Yeah.
whatever.
Dervin, it's interesting you say that, because right when you said the franchising, it stuck out to me, like
So
your
it makes sense.
name, your model, and like even your equipment. But it doesn't happen in this industry, to my knowledge, like
No,
hardly ever. And so that's very interesting that you just brought that up.
because the problem is in the septic world, the company is a person.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
the majority of the time, you get a guy, he buys a truck, and he knows every customer, he pumps every tank, and so on. But I wanted it to be bigger than just me, and so you have to have systems in place, you have to have image in place, you have to have growth in place, and that's where those are the kind of things I'm trying to figure out. Like I'm happy with the progress that we've made and the growth we've made. So I'm not looking to be like this billionaire or something like that, but I just want the industry to be better.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're professionals, and this is what I'm part of an association on the executive board of Michigan Septic Tank Association, and I get to network with guys within the whole state that do the same thing as we do. And so whenever we're having any kind of a public forum and a discussion, and you kind of start butting heads and they start saying snide remarks about inspectors or regulation and blah, 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 I say, hold on a second. We are here to help each other be better. You are professionals. We are public health professionals.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you want to go back to the ditch with sewer running in it that your kids fall into, and, like Africa and other undeveloped countries? And no, I don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
So let's be big boys, and let's work together, and let's listen to an idea that at first we're like, I don't know if I want to do it that way. Well, if you don't want to do it that way, your kids might.
Yep.
So just don't shout it down too fast. And let's remember, let's act like the professionals that we are in the industry that we are in.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're not acting like professionals, let's change our mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the whole business model for me was just taking an industry that everyone likes to joke about, and bring it up a notch.
Mm-hmm.
We host events here at the shop, and some of the realtors are like, dude, I would eat off your shop floor. And that's saying a lot for a septic company.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, hallelujah, that's great.
Well, it's good that people know you for that. That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
I don't know if that answered kind of your initial questions, but that's kind of what I had on my mind as far as an answer to that.
Luke, I'm going to jump in. I've got kind of a question. You talked about right away, you got in early with like the Instagram and the social media stuff. You talked about appearance. And I feel like in the septic world, and you kind of mentioned, a septic company is one person and everybody knows that person and they pump all their septics, whatever. How did you take your image for the equipment you have right now? Because that's how I found you. You've got awesome looking trucks. You got obviously the best equipment out there, Cat. And they look good. So how did you take that into the realm that you're in and not have competitors be like, this guy is either charging way too much or he's taking advantage or something like that, to where, maybe they're just a guy with one of those pumps that is leaking oil everywhere. They have rusted out trucks or equipment or whatever. That's something that interests me, because I get that a lot. People are like, oh, you've got these brand new machines, you must charge way too much. It's like, no, I care about what I'm doing, but I'm interested to hear about it on the septic side, because of those companies that usually are those 1 to 2 man crews.
Yeah, so I'll tell you, I wave at every septic guy in my town, and about half of them wave back. So I am a threat to all of them, but I don't treat them as a threat to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I even say stuff like this, like I'm a public speaker in some of these events and stuff like that. And so when they're there in the room, I'm transparent with them to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm saying to them is, there's enough work for all of us.
Yep.
Let's all be better. So maybe to start off with, I treat all my colleagues with respect. The other thing I think of that comes to mind is that I really provided a lot of educational material that even they can see.
Mhm.
Like, I'm not charging for videos that talk about how a septic system functions, or how an proper inspection takes place, or how we do an aeration. And so I'm giving a lot of information out there, and they're like, oh my, well, they do a lot. They don't just
Mhm.
pump tanks, they're full service. And so I think on one hand, the transparency that we offer to our potential customers and our repeat customers, our competitors see as well. And they're
Mhm.
like, yeah, he's got a good thing going,
Mhm.
and so even networking in the Michigan Septic Tank Association, um, we deal with legislation and PACs and stuff like that, and so I'm involved in trying to help legislation that benefits all of us get passed. And so if they see me as a voice for them in Lansing,
Mhm.
and if I go along and testify on these issues, I'm representing them, and that's what we tell them.
Mhm.
And like, you guys, we are your representatives in Lansing, and we want us all to succeed. Those are probably a couple things. And it's been, I mean, we didn't always have trucks and machines that looked like this. And for someone starting off, I would say, don't get discouraged by all the CAT equipment and all the matching fleet and stuff like that, but start with what you can afford. And this is the starting point. Be consistent with
Mhm.
your appearance. In other words, if you have a charcoal, this is how I started off with charcoal. I bought a brand new '03 Dodge Cummins, and it was charcoal, that dark charcoal. Well, when I bought my first dump truck, it was an old county truck, yellow, that had been painted red, that I painted charcoal. And I had the same logo on my dump truck that I had on the door of my pickup truck. Now, it was a '79 Ford L9000, and the
Oh,
thing's
trust me.
screaming Detroit in the
Oh yeah.
engine, and a black rusted out box. But it had a shiny cab that was the same color as my pickup truck, and it had a very nice logo on it.
Mhm.
It was big, they could see it. So start somewhere. And once we were into it, I was like, charcoal's not really doing anything for me. And when we developed the Pump That Septic brand, we went with the Mr. Clean idea. And my brother-in-law was like, look, white is so easy to get. You can get a white truck anywhere. Let's pick another color that's clean. We don't want diarrhea yellow or
Yep.
something like that. So let's go
Mhm.
blue. Blue is clean water. So let's give the appearance of we're hauling water for swimming pools. I mean,
Yep.
he didn't say that, but that's how we look. We look like, we're gonna pull up and give you fresh water in your
Hmm.
In your tank.
pool
Yep.
for the summer. But in fact, you know, we're clean, but everything that's dirty is
Is contained.
contained, and we keep our trucks clean, we keep our guys clean, and the only thing that's dirty on those trucks is the whipper and the hose that goes in the tank. All right.
Mhm.
And even that all gets sucked out every job. So consistency in the way you present yourself, even in the equipment, I rented first, and I bought what I could afford at first.
Mhm.
Put your name on the equipment too. So those are a couple things that I did starting off. I had an image even when I was little and struggling, and so
That you were consistent of it. Okay.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
And the same thing was, I'll bring that into the social media side. So if you went on my Facebook page, that same logo that was on my pickup truck was on my profile, on the profile picture. And so every time they saw us, whether it was Twitter, whether it was Facebook, whether it was Instagram, there was always that same logo. And so it's branding. It's mind top of mind awareness. They see it 10 times. They're like, and then they see it go down the road and they remember it.
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah, Dervin, we always say you need at least 30 touch points before somebody will make a purchase. And obviously that can be exaggerated. It can be less than that, but it's just that omnipresence marketing. Like, what is the easiest way to get that many touch points? It's not one Facebook post, or it's not one business card handed out. It's all of those things combined working together. So it's like when they see your truck driving down the road, they're like, it feels like they've seen you everywhere. And then, when their septic tank is full, which it, shouldn't be, they already know who to call. And then, they look on Google and they see that logo and they see you and they know who to call. So it's really building that trust and seeing that, okay, well, they're investing into their company, into their people, their equipment, and doing something right, because I've been seeing them for the last 2, 3, 4 years consistently.
Yeah.
One question I wanted to ask, and if you guys don't feel the same way, let me know, but I feel like I know a lot of people that are, wanting to start their own business, which is awesome. I'm a big advocate for that. A lot of guys starting out, with a skid steer, maybe a mini, and doing a lot of grading, basement digs, things like that, foundations. Do you see a lot of people starting like a septic company? Because I feel like personally, I haven't seen a lot of that where they like start from pumping and then go up from there. I guess, what are your thoughts on that? Or is that something that you develop after you kind of start an excavating company?
Yeah, I think it's a longer path. There's more training, there's more licensing that you have to
Yeah.
get when you start a septic company. So if you want to get into septic, yeah, do your research and get your different you have to get a license through Eagle to be able to be a septic waste hauler. And then there's different classifications within that. There's residential sewage, and then there's industrial waste, grease, and stuff like that. So yeah, the way we got into it was we were doing sewer hookups by myself. I was doing. There was a project where they did a treatment plant, and they were servicing 5 all sports lakes, and they were disconnecting the septics and hooking them up to sewer. I was doing that, and I hired a local pumper to pump tanks, and I got a bill for like $1,200 because I did 6 tanks, at the time, back in 2005, and I was like, well, that's $1,200 that could be in my pocket if I bought a truck.
Mhm.
So there was a local well driller, local friend of mine, who knew a guy that was retiring, and I bought an old truck with a propane tank on it that was a vac truck. I got my license, my 10 credits through Eagle. It was then I can't even remember, MDEQ at the time. It was, yeah, but anyway, I got that, and so um, at the end of that project, I was like, wow, this is 2 different businesses, really. And so our septic side now is really a feeder for excavation work on the excavating side. And
Right.
on the excavating side, when we put new systems, dig basements and put in new systems, we're coming back in 3 years and we're cleaning their tank.
For your servicing.
So I never saw the connection until I started doing the work. Then I was like, oh my goodness, we can market these both. I mean, you got twice the exposure for one business now.
Mhm.
All of a sudden, if you market it correctly, and you have exponentially more customers now, because as an excavator, because you provide full service septic, and then there's drain cleaning, and there's camera inspections, and there's pumping, and then there's engineered systems that you need to provide ongoing maintenance for, and there's pipelining, there's just a vast array of businesses. And that's why I tell my boys, I'm like, you guys want to make some more money, start shaking the doors down on a few of these different industries that we come across, like CIPP, close, pipe, cure in place pipe
Mhm.
lining, and all that other stuff. And that's how we got into hydrovac.
We just
And
took our class for the cure in place pipe.
yeah.
We sent the guy to Idaho to do that. It was very cool from what he told us. He
hmm
enjoyed it.
I would love to get into that, but I don't have the
Mhm.
manpower. And so,
Yep.
so yeah, it's really cool. So those are a few things I think of as far as that goes.
No, good question, Luke.
Yeah.
I've kind of got one as well, and this kind of flips the script a little bit. You talked about, obviously, and this is talked about with a lot of people, but it's the enough work for everyone quote, right? And this, I want to get your take on it, because I feel like from where you're at, you're sitting up top, right? You're comfortable where you're at. You've built a very good book of business, right? But then I'm going to bring it to the bottom spectrum, to where there's a young gun coming in. he wants to, drum up a lot of work and just blow up, right? I'm going to use that as an example. So the enough work for everyone, how you to where you're at, you know, being competitive is what I'm going to bring it into. When you say that, but then when you're going against other people out on bids, do you look at it at the aspect of, I know my service, I know what I can provide? That is, to me, you're not competition. Do you look at it that way at all? I guess it's kind of a tough question to really kind of nail down. Maybe I'll bring a personal side into it a little bit. Maybe that'll help. So on our Western side, we are seeing a lot of contractors get upset with their current providers. Maybe they're not giving them the service that they want or whatever, right? So in our heads, we're like, we're going to take every opportunity to try to service this person to hopefully gain future business. Okay. But you take that top end guy who's been around for a long time, I won't name names, but it's happening to us right now to where they're like, I'm not worried about these guys. I'm comfortable where I'm at. I'm going to bury you type thing. But he also, on the flip side, is like, there's enough work for everybody. It is what it is. So does that mentality ever cross over, if that tries to make sense, or if that makes sense for the point I'm trying to ask?
Let me try and answer it this way. When you're first starting off, you generally just you bid everything to where you can make enough money to keep going. You don't have the luxury to say, oh, there's enough work for everyone. I'm just gonna, price this, however sky high I want. And we don't even have that luxury either. But what we try and do is we try and cater to the customer we want to work for.
Yep.
And by providing the information online, most of our customers have already decided we're going to do their job before they even contact us. And that's because we have provided transparency, and we have provided real time and real location data, meaning, okay, today we're working in Niles. Okay, I know where Niles, Michigan is. Okay, tomorrow we're working in Kalamazoo, and we have pictures of it, and we say what we're doing. And so we're really positioning ourselves. There's enough work to go around for everyone, I'll say that, but there's some people I don't really want to work for.
Yep.
That the guy starting up would be just happy to serve. I've positioned the company in a place that we are the known professionals in the area, so I guess it feels a little
You're a little bit more comfortable. Your service, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I guess I would have to agree with that conclusion there. But that being said, every now and then, if I want to work for someone and they're like, man, that's just, I'll negotiate a little bit. Now, it's not devaluing what we offer.
Nope.
It's that I want to work for this person, and I'll give them a little better deal, like, 1% or something, like that. So something that makes them feel like, okay, he's cut me a break. I really want him to do this. And so you have to know your customer, and you get better at that the more you do it. So I guess that's some of how I would answer that question.
The one thing, go ahead, Luke.
Or Luke, actually you can go, because I'm going to jump in with a little bit of a different point here.
I was going to say, so from what we're seeing, and I feel like from what a lot of other people are seeing, and I'm going to speak to both sides of this, to where if you are new coming in, know your industry, learn what you need to learn what actual prices are of things, learn what it actually takes to do business. But from the other side, obviously learning that, but knowing that I'm comfortable with a lot of the contractors I work with, but that only instills me to want to work more and more to gain more. And maybe it's just me, but I'm competitive as hell. I will never badmouth anybody. I'm sure people offer great services, but I want people to know when they bring up our names that they are fantastic at what they do. They know their shit. They're going to get it done. Right. And then I'm going to explain that service of, yes, we are the best, not trying to downgrade to anybody, but that's what I want us to be known for. And that's what again, I see an opportunity, and I'm not saying this into your aspect, but I feel like a lot of people get comfortable to where they're at because where they know what they put out and they know what they built, that there's always ever challenging competitors is kind of the roundabout way is what I was going to say.
Yeah. I'll say to your point, to the guy starting up, you have to stop saying, how much should I charge an hour for my skid steer? Oh, that's just the complete wrong way to
I
look at
hate
this.
seeing that.
Because, and here's why. When you arrive, say you have a place where all your equipment is. When you arrive, how long does it take you to load everything, get everything on there? How much time does it take to fuel, to grease, to all kinds of crazy stuff, to load your
Yep.
pipe? Then you get to the job and you work 15 minutes and you do a job, or I'll say 2 hours, and you install stuff and you cover it back up. But the machine time might have been 2 hours, okay?
Correct.
But you get back at 2:30. Okay, what are you going to do for the rest of the day?
Yeah.
You're not going to make
Correct.
money, bro.
No.
So guess what? If it's going to take you more than half a day, you better have the money for a day's worth of work for that machine.
Correct.
You're providing a service that it's not like you can bring a helicopter and drop the thing in and then suck it up and you're gone and there's no headache. No, you bring everything back. You've got to clean it up. My dad runs an electric motor facility, and I ran that 10 years out of high school. That's where I got my business degree, I'll say, running that repair facility. And he always said, the job is not complete until all the dirt from that customer, that their motor is cleaned, all your tools are put back, the paint booth is cleaned up, and the trash is taken out. Okay, now you punch out. Yep. Because guess what? That's not my dirt. I don't pay you to clean that guy's dirt. That guy pays you to clean his dirt. Whatever mess is made, that has to be on the clock. And so I brought that into the excavating side. I'm like, well, sure. I'm one heck of an excavator, we'll say, operator. And so I might be able to do something in 2 hours that it would take a new guy 4. And so I show up, I do the job in 2 hours, and I charge them for, a half a day or a day. And they're like, oh, wow, this other guy quoted this. Yeah, well, guess what? You're paying for my experience, from my knowledge, from my craft. I have developed my craft to a level that I can do the job more efficiently. And so the guy starting out has to understand that, man, there's a lot of time and energy and hidden cost in running, any company with high overhead in equipment and in insurance and in fuel, and that changes too. And so you have always to be, we had a fuel surcharge that we would go up and down when the fuel went crazy back in, I don't know,
last year.
Well, even before that, like 10 years ago, when it spiked up, we started doing a fuel surcharge. Well, now we just absorb it into new pricing. But people were like, the shipping companies are charging fuel surcharges. And so we would take the prime rate of the day, and that would determine our fuel surcharge. And shipping companies were doing it. And like, why can't we? We're driving people's shit all over the place to dump it.
Why can't you do it as well?
I'm a shipping company.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
So anyway.
Yeah. And Dervin, I want to take a stab at it this way too, because I was just listening to the Con Expo podcast. Our good friend Dylan Mercier was on it, and with Taylor White. And it was really cool because he talks about it from like the new guys that we're talking about here. And I loved his insight on it because he didn't hold anything back. And what he mentioned too is because Taylor asked him about competition and what he thinks of that and how he kind of handles it. And he said, he takes their scraps, but they know it, he knows it. And so he has like this sort of business relationship with them. It's like, hey, I'll do the stuff you don't want to do. I'll clean up after the stuff you don't want to clean up after, because going back to your point about the profits of a bigger company and the overhead, somebody like Dylan or somebody just starting out doesn't have as much overhead or as much margin, or they have a lot more margin to play with. So a lot of times they can do some of those shittier jobs for less, but working with a company like you or like your competition can help feed some of that work towards you. So if these guys know that they're getting all the leads and they just can't service them, and they have somebody like a Dylan that is willing to do a really good job and has been doing a good job, and they'll just start feeding them that way. I feel like that's a great way to get started and get going. But as Dylan will say, and he'll tell you, I mean, it's long hours, it's hard work, but he knows where he wants to get to. And he knows that there's a lot of hard work in between now and where he wants to be.
Yeah. And I would have to say we have that relationship with pumpers in our area. If I don't have a guy to do an emergency pumping on a weekend, I'll give out a couple names, and some of those guys are just one man operations. And so if they get into a situation where there's a campground with like 20 tanks and they can't service them in the next month, they'll say, hey, call dig it, call pump that septic. So we have a little bit of that. On the commercial side, we don't do a lot of big sites, but we'll go in and we'll do seeding and strawing on a job, or we'll do the septic system on a commercial. Some of the like that big commercial system we just picked up, the main contractor on there, Brubaker out of Goshen, they're huge. They have lots of guys, and they run a top-notch organization, but they don't do septics, and so we go in and we do the septic, and it's a good ticket item for us. Or we might go in and finish up seeding around a dock that they put in or something like that because they can't get to it. So there's definitely that type of relationship that we have with contractors, GCs, and fellow competitors, I'll call them, in the area. And so absolutely, there's no shame in collaborating with people within your industry. And in fact, I say it helps us all, because we can bring each other up. If they see me driving around in a brand new pickup truck, and Ford F550 service trucks, and they're nice, and they're like, oh dude, how do you do that? Well, what are you charging for your jobs? Maybe you need to charge more. And so my gauge is, if I get 100% of the bids I'm bidding too
You're too
low.
cheap. Yep.
I have to lose bids to be able to gauge, okay, we're getting close to the border of where we want to be camping out.
Mm-hmm.
So
on your bidding basis, Kay, for finding your numbers, is there, how do I want to structure this question? Because this is kind of an intricate question. When you got into some of that bigger stuff, obviously you were very well educated, but were there some to where you're like, I am not sure how to do some of these parts, I'm going to bid it high and see where I come in for future reference? Yep.
Yes. Yeah. You never guess and think, I don't know if I have enough. Put in too much.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're not sure, double it. I'm an opportunist. It's really interesting. I have sold jobs that I didn't have the equipment for.
Mm-hmm.
On the septic side, I sold drain field restoration before I had an aeration machine or even a camera. So on the job, I said, yeah, we'll do an inspection. I had the rigid salesman bring a demo camera out on this job, and we're like scoping. And he's like, man, this thing is like a baseball bat, and he's like whacking it on the ground. I'm like, hey, don't break it. We need to actually use this thing.
Yeah, don't break it.
We scoped it out and said, yep, see, the whole thing's saturated, but we can get it going. And I'm calling the guy out in Minnesota, the Earthbuster guy. It was Soil Shaker back in the day. And I'm like, dude, I have to have one. I just sold the job. He's like, I can't get parts. And I was like, do you have one? Yeah. He's like, sell it to me. He sold it to me.
Good.
I sold the job before I had that. And this has happened just recently again, lift station maintenance. So we have the cranes, we have the hydrovac. We don't have confined space equipment. We don't have gas meters. We don't have tripods. We don't have the training. Just spent $8,000 on all of that stuff because we have a $60,000 job that we're going to do. So, dude, if the opportunity's there and if the money's there, nobody would bid this job. And I said, hey, bring 2 or 3 estimates in here. I don't care. I bid it so I can make money. This is where I got to be. Could not get a single other person to bid it. And they're like,
really?
Well, we feel like, I had a subcontractor who sells pumps say, yeah, you might be a little high, but you're not out of the line. And so, we're buying the equipment, which, is some tripods and some, gas meters and air supply and
awesome
and stuff like that. And we're going to pull these pumps out, replace the top, put grates on, update all the floats, put in a new pump or two. put in a rail system, and now we've got everything for the next job.
Awesome.
And the job will pay for that equipment, you
Yep.
know.
Oh, that's
So
good.
that's kind of, don't sell yourself cheap
Mhm.
just because someone wants a good deal. Know your value. In other words, set yourself in a position that you're charging like a professional. You can be safe like a professional. And that was a problem when I was first starting out. I was doing all these sewer hookups around the lakes. I was in water tables. I was deep. And Paul Fallon, he doesn't even know how to start excavators, and he owns this huge excavating company. Actually, he retired, but at the time, I did his sewer hookup, and he drove home one day, and I was in this deep ditch. I mean, it was sloped back, but it was probably 11 feet deep. I had the dump truck sitting there, the excavator here, and I had loading dirt. And he got out of his truck and he said, "You have kids?" And I said, "Yeah, I think I had 4 at the time." I said, "Yeah, I got 4." He said, "I don't want to ever see you down in a hole like that ever again." And he just sat there and looked at me, and I was like, okay.
You got it.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It was sort of safe, but
Yep.
it could have not been safe.
Yep.
And I said, okay, look, we got to slow this down, and I got to charge enough that if it's going to take me 4 days to do it safely, we're not going to try and whack it down in 2 days and make a profit. You know what I'm saying? We're going to take the 4 days. And
Yep.
so
Take your time.
new guys, don't do stupid stuff.
Mhm.
Just don't. It's not worth it. I mean, talk to Parker. What's his name? Aaron, not Parker.
Alex.
Yes.
Yeah, I actually just talked to him today.
Alex Parker.
Yeah.
I just met him at Con Expo. And yeah, I read his story and stuff like that, but it was nice meeting him, talking to him. And
Yeah. Luke, he had a
Who's this?
trench collapse, I believe it was. Alex Parker, the with Parker Rock and Dirt. And
that's it.
he's the vice president of Crew Collab. So
Yes.
we
Okay.
have meetings every couple of weeks together. But yeah, so he's like, say a big advocate for trench safety.
Yeah.
And shares a lot of insightful content, and also like just raising awareness for trench safety.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's good. Did he have one collapse on him?
Yeah. He was
Yeah,
buried with a guy, and they were able to dig them both out. And they, I don't remember if they both survived or not, but he has a lot of back trouble.
Yep,
From it.
I was gonna
really?
say, I know. Yes, he still does years and years later, still has back troubles from it, and I believe broken back and a few other big injuries from it. But yeah, he was one of the lucky ones, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You hear a lot of scary stories about that, but
Yeah.
it's cool to see people really taking, an initiative to try to teach about it. Obviously, it's always been there, but you see more and more about it on social media. So hopefully people are actually doing their part and trying to teach more, and obviously stay safe with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And we might as well bring it up now, but Dervin, I know at Con Expo, saw you got together with the group, went out to eat, had a little, I'll just call it a mastermind, probably meeting of the minds.
Yeah.
How was that? I knew most of the people in your group. It just looked like a good time, and all of you guys are in the septic industry. So I just thought that was really cool that you guys are doing something outside of the show, but also I can imagine like what you guys talked about, you moved forward at some point during those conversations.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, Walnut Grove, Travis Gemmell from Walnut Grove, ASAP Septic. He's out of South Carolina. The little operator, Alex, she was there, and then the Canadian guys, Canadian Septic, James Seitzema, and myself, and yeah, it was a good
That's
time.
fun.
It was just good to kind of shoot the bull together, and talk about industry, problems, and
Yeah.
just things that we enjoy about it, and just kind of encourage each other to be professionals, and to do a good job. That was a fun night. It was really a fun night. I would definitely do it again, and there again, that's the collaboration makes everybody better. I the days of everybody having a 6-shooter on their hip, and don't come into my territory,
Mhm.
or I'll blow you out. It's just stupid. I mean, there is so much information and there's so much connectivity, I'll say, within our social worlds today
Yeah.
that, find your niche, find your friend group even within the industry. It was interesting. Um, we've been featured so many times in Pumper Magazine and On-Site Installer and different projects and stuff like that. And um, James from Canadian Septic, he's started to get featured too. And one of the guys, one of the editors from, I think it was Jim. Oh, I can't think of his name. Jim from Cole Publishing called me up the other day and he said, "Hey, you got anything in the pipeline?" He said, we used to run around just trying to find stories. And he said, we just, we just kind of have our handful that we like to go back to and say, what are you doing that's interesting? What are you doing that's unusual? And, I don't know if you can see the picture in the background, but, that Lake Cora project was just featured in February uh, on-site installer. It was a sludge hammer drip irrigation, which is it's kind of new for the area and super close tolerance on setbacks to lake and stuff that they allow because the final effluent was so clean. So just stuff like that. And I just put it out there, and so other people in the area, start using sludge hammer and stuff. And sometimes I'm like, dude, he does more with sludge hammer than I do. And I've spent all this time and energy and money on, producing videos. And I say, good for them. The whole industry is better. In 1 second, your ego is like, dude, come on. I kind of helped you get there. But
Yep.
it's like, I don't care. I just do
Yeah.
not care.
Good.
Really. I can't care because the industry and the community is worth more than my big ego.
Yeah.
And like you
No.
said, the safety earlier too. Like,
Yeah.
would you want to go back to the old ways where your kids are playing in shit, or do you
Yeah.
want a clean environment and clean space for them?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, we gotta move it forward. And I love how, you talk about that. And I'll just say, keep your eyes peeled because I'm making my debut in the Western Canada's on-site informer, I think this month. So
Cool.
my first article will be published, I think, in a couple weeks here. So
That's
Congrats.
awesome.
That
Love to
is
see
super
it.
cool.
Love to see it.
yeah, so it should be good. But yeah, I mean, just like you said too, I think, and Luke, I know this has helped me a lot with the podcast, really, of just like, it gets you out of your little world of like maybe your town or your city or even your state, where you realize that there's other things going on in the world and there's other people out there doing different things, that are doing cool things that are very innovative, motivating, whatever it is. And I think the podcast and just being, social on social media and just kind of that collaboration has really helped me see more of the bigger picture of like, okay, well, it's not just about like making an extra dollar or trying to beat this person out that's in my local town. It's like the bigger picture of, okay, well, how do we move forward as an industry, as a business? And I'm very similar to Luke. I'm very competitive as well, but you can be competitive and still help others out. So I think
Yeah.
there's kind of a blurred line for some people that kind of get stuck in their ways, but I love competition, and a lot of times it can be very positive competition.
Yeah.
I think you said it really well, Luke. There is a blurred line between like it's competition and almost arrogance to where just because you're competing, you feel like you have to hate that person. And I feel like they are very, very small minded in that aspect. Obviously, yeah, when you're competing, may the best man win, may the best prices win,
100%.
may the best service win, right? But it doesn't mean you're a bad company.
Right.
Right. And I feel like that needs to get put out more in the sense of just because we're competing, I don't hate you. Right. I'm sure you have a great service. I hope to beat your service, but at the day's end, I have nothing bad to say about you,
Yeah.
Yeah. And Luke, as you say that too, I just thought of respect. Like
Yep.
I think of a lot of people in whether it's my industry or others industries, it's like when you have respect for the person and you really enjoy that person and what they're doing for maybe their family, for themselves, like you love it. You want to see them succeed as well. But yeah, it's just kind of like that, let the best man win, but it's not for like the long game. It's like
Nope.
just on this one project or this one
Yep.
client. And when you have respect for somebody like that, you really do want to see them succeed. And that's where that collaboration really comes in as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I don't want to see my competitors driving around in pieces of junk that, drip
Right.
oil and stuff like that. And if I raise the prices and they raise the prices and he buys a new truck, I'm like, man, we have 4 nice septic trucks in our community now, and that's great.
It almost kind of, I don't want to say it brings more respect to the industry, but it's looked at differently. And it kind of goes back to the appearance. Like, people do care what you look like. I don't care what anybody says,
Right.
but that is the first thing that people will notice: what type of equipment you have, what type of, uniform you have for the guys on site, what type of trucks you drive. And seldomly is it bad to where people are like, oh, they're driving a brand new pickup, I'm not going to have them, they charge way too much. A lot of the times it's opposite, to where they must really care about their business. They must really care about, investing back and getting the best tools for the projects, that type of thing.
So I have a 3 P's that are kind of my business philosophy: pride, professionalism, and profit.
Mhm.
And none of those are a dirty word. Pride is, we want our image to be clean. We
Presented
want
well.
presentable. We want to be the professionals in our industry. So that's then the professionalism comes in. We don't cut corners. We don't, dump sewage in the
In the
down.
lake or in the local fishing pond.
Exactly. And then profit. And I say, we are where we are because I want to be profitable. Okay.
Yeah.
Profit is not a dirty word. And so those 3 P's are kind of the my personal business mantra, and people say, wow, this is cool. And I say, it takes all 3. It takes image, pride, it takes professionalism, integrity, it takes profit. You have to be able to have money at the end of the day for this kind of stuff.
Yep. You want a
Yeah.
good service, we're going to have to make money to provide that good service. You want good people to provide that service, we're going to have to pay them a good amount of money. So we have to be profitable in order to do so.
Yes.
Right. And that also goes into your original point too of consistency. Like, you can't be consistent and grow with the times and add resources and educate without profit. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's not as a business, you have to make profit to sustain longevity as a business, and obviously do it. The goal is to do it in a healthy way where you can spend some time with family, or you can have a cookout a couple times a year, whatever that looks like. But having profit has never been a bad thing. And I think showcasing that and just maybe educating too a little bit that it's not a bad thing to have profit. Every business needs to have it to succeed.
Yep.
Yeah. And if we succeed as a company, you as an employee are going to succeed too.
That is one of our site foremans. Is he's kind of adopted the role of keeping everybody's spirits high on shitty days, because there are really shitty days. But he's been really good at telling guys on site, like, hey, if the company is not making money on us, we are not doing our jobs correctly.
So I just had this discussion. I have a lot of my kids working for me, 24, 22, 19, 16. Those are all full-time. And then 16.
I thought you had your
You're
kids
right.
working for you. Hell yeah.
Anyway, so I had this discussion last night. I came back from, and they were like, how do you, I'm kind of going off the topic a little bit. They were like, how do you present the company in a way that it doesn't end when you say you are a vac truck driver for septic industry? And I was like, well, I don't know. So we had a good discussion about that. But at the same time, I was like, hey guys, you know what? We need to talk about, because my one daughter, she does a lot of the administrative stuff, but there's some aspects, the DOT regulations and stuff like that. She gets a little bogged down, and she's like, I hate that. She'd rather be out doing inspections. And she's like, I'm going to get my CDL license. And I'm like, okay.
You're like, please do it. We need more drivers.
But, and then my one son was like, I'm happy to just kind of like, he's like that millennial mindset, like, the job funds the passion, work is not the passion, something else is the passion. And, so anyway, and he's like, I'm happy with, the amount of work that I do. And I said, that's a horrible mindset to have. I said, you'll get fired with that kind of a mindset. You won't be promoted with that kind of a mindset. I said, do you realize if you don't figure out a way to become more profitable to the company, I might just let you go.
Yeah, gonna replace you.
Yeah. And I said to my daughter too, I said, you can't pick and choose what your boss is going to give you as a responsibility. Now, as a dad, you can be a little bit workable here, but I'm like, if you don't want to do this role, I can find probably another person, a guy or a gal, that would love to take over your job, and they would do it maybe better than you.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, the one thing, we have to have this discussion in a family company every now and then where you just like lay it out. You're like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm your dad, but I'm your boss too. And at some level, this machine has to be oiled. This machine has to be fed. And if you're not going to feed it at the level of intensity of the work stream that's coming in, you're going to have to fall off.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to have to put someone more competent in your place. And so I felt like I kind of gave them all a shot in the arm to like get with it a little more, like invest something more than you're giving into the company and make it your own. Make your little corner your own. Make it a bigger corner, and you'll get compensated for it. So it was a fun conversation to have. It got a little heated a couple times, but my wife doesn't get involved in the company at all. She's just kind of quietly listening. She left the room a couple times and came back, and it was just kind of fun. It was a dynamic. And then at the end, I was like, guys, listen, there's nothing more fun than me coming back at the end of the day and a van drives in, and Olivia's got the inspection camera there, and she's like talking about the inspections, and Isaiah comes rolling in with Lucian in the vac truck, and they're like, these customers today were awesome, and this, that, and the other thing, or this guy was nasty or whatever. I said, that is so rewarding to say, dude, my kids ran this multi-million-dollar company today. And I was just like, that's amazing.
That's cool.
That's amazing. And you need to understand that what you're doing is amazing, but you have to contribute more. You have to contribute every day. You have to get up. You have to say, I'm doing a public health service by what I'm doing. You have to elevate it in your mind to what it actually is. And that's how you have that conversation with your friends. Hey, do you want to go back to, urine and feces floating down your front door, throwing the garbage out that your kids walk through and your dogs walk through, and then they come inside? I mean, do we want to go back to that? Or do we want to have sanitary conditions? Do we want to have good jobs? Do we want to have healthy swimming beaches? Do we want to have, all of that stuff? And they're like, yeah, okay, let's go get them.
Hell yeah. I want to ask this question, and I know we're getting close to time here, Luke, but so the family business side, how I come from a family to where that is not an option. They've had bad experiences within the family, and it just kind of driven them apart. How do you separate the boss and the dad mentality, and what are some secrets to make that work?
It's a good question.
I think one of the things is to be available to them outside of work. You have to be involved in their interests. You have to be involved in their activities, the things they're interested in. Also, I can't always be talking business with them. They're like, I'm done talking business. Okay, fine. Okay, so let's talk soccer. Let's talk, videography or whatever you're interested in. Or, right now my son is prom and stuff like that. So, okay, or let's go to concerts together, or let's go to a soccer game together. We're going to go to, I don't know who it is, Real Madrid and AC Milan or something like that over in Ann Arbor. I mean, crazy tickets, $192 a piece, but what the heck? Let's go do it.
Let's go do it because it's your passion.
Yeah, and that's the kind of stuff. My one son, he likes playing higher level soccer, so we drive to St. Louis last weekend, and we do National League games, and he's going to Spain in 3 weeks for a week with his mom, and you just have to spend the money on some of that kind of stuff. And someone just starting to say, well, I can't go to Spain with my kid. Do what you can. 20 years ago, I did not take my kids to Spain to play soccer. Okay. That's the reward of 20 some years of blood, sweat, and tears. And so the family aspect it's a little more controllable within the immediate family. I have extended family that works for me as well. That gets a little more dicey. And so it's definitely, you have to decide, is that a pill you want to swallow? And at some level, sometimes you got to move beyond that. But so, well, I'll take it as long as it works,
Yep.
and I'll work on it as long as I need to make it work. But at some level, my kids they're gonna have to move on, and my other extended family is gonna have to move on if it's not gonna be a successful. If the culture declines to a place that the company cannot function properly, then we got to make changes.
Yep.
And I think that's kind of at the helm of a company. You have to decide, is the culture still intact? Is it the way you want it? Is there ways to improve it? Or do you just have to get out the pruning shears and say,
And
okay,
just
time to
cut it
chop the
off.
tree.
Yep.
Time to just kind of bring the tree a little closer here,
Mhm.
to your vision.
Mm-hmm. I've let go a couple people, and it's tough, and I don't want to bring up firing or hiring or anything like that, because I'm sure you run a great business with family, and I'm sure it brings its challenges. But the one challenge that sticks out to me is like the emotion side of it, to where you have, your normal employees that have no family relation to you. It's tough to get rid of them, because obviously
Yeah.
you want them to be okay. But then obviously the family side, that would be tough. That would be my one like red flag, to be like, how do I do this to where that time comes? If it does come.
Yeah, my wife says, she doesn't like anyone close because she feels too emotionally attached to it. And I said,
Mhm.
that's why I'm the business owner, not you.
Yep.
And we
Yeah.
as guys somehow are a little more emotionally disconnected, but there is emotion to all of it, and
Yep.
you have to remember to have empathy in those situations too. We're in an industry where everyone's tough. I mean, we were talking about mental health. You were talking about just someone who said, I'm soft. Was it Taylor? I listened to an interview with Taylor and you guys, and he was like, yeah, people think it's soft to like go to like therapy or something.
Therapy. Yeah.
Or maybe
No,
it
it's
was
not at
Aaron.
all.
Maybe it was
No, it was
Aaron.
Taylor.
It was
Yeah, it
Taylor.
was Taylor.
So here's the thing, guys. We have to be tough when we need to be tough, but we also have to be human.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I think that keeps us grounded.
Definitely. No, it does indeed. Yeah. I again kind of a personal question on that note. So thanks for answering that, because yeah, I mean, through my experiences and through what I've seen, family businesses do not work. But on my spectrum, my fiance, we've got a little girl and we want more. And she always asks the question of like, how many should we have? I'm like,
Mhm.
I'll have as many as you give to me, right? But
Yeah.
Right.
I would love to have a little team of
Yeah.
like, she was like, well, what if we have 10 kids? I'm like, I would love 10 kids, but I would love for them to work for me. I think
It's
that
so
would be
Yeah.
sick.
so
It
fun.
is so sick.
Yep.
I have 6, and that's where it seemed to end, which is fine. I come from a family of 9. My wife comes from a family of
Awesome.
7, so we're
Wow.
used to kids.
Yep.
And so 6 was decent. But the other weekend, I didn't have anyone to go with me on an emergency pumping, and my youngest, Olivia, Anastasia, she's 12, and I'm like, "You want to come with me?" She's like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
So she gets on a Dig It shirt, and she's on an Instagram post throwing hoses, you know. And
That's so fun.
I have pictures of my oldest daughter when she was little, just
Mhm.
little, pudgy thing, just out there. So much fun. It's so rewarding, and the kids don't realize it at the time.
No.
They don't value it at the time, but it was really interesting. I was My son does some gaming, the soccer player, and he was like, dude, and he started explaining
Yeah,
what
dude.
I was doing at Con Expo
Mhm.
and how I was an influencer and dude, they took him over to Sweden and he was going off to his soccer teammate. And I was like, I was just sitting there
You're
like,
like, yeah, keep it coming. You're
this
right.
is
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
awesome.
pretty
yeah.
cool. Yeah, I'm a
I,
badass.
yeah, like I thought, dude, you hated me. I mean, not that they hate, the
No, yeah,
teenager is like, to get lost, dad,
Yeah.
yeah,
that kind of
yeah.
thing. But
Oh, that is really cool.
I was just like, cool. And, it's a lot of fun,
No,
kids washing equipment and, they look back on all that stuff and they just, they value it. It's
no.
time, time spent together and
Mhm.
it really, it can be fun times, just not work. And it can be work fun times.
Yep.
And it could be nasty times too.
Yeah.
Working.
That just
I
comes
mean,
with the industry.
it's
There's good
life.
days, there's bad days, and there's really bad days.
Yeah.
No. Well, that's
Yeah,
good.
it's important though that they see a lot of that too. And if you can be that leader for them and it works out great, that's perfect, because a lot of times, you know, you don't want to coddle somebody either in like a perfect bubble scenario. And so a lot of times it is very important growing up to have a lot of those hard times, especially from a business sense. I think you see a lot of the ups and downs, and you see like some of the sacrifices and what needs to be done. But then, yeah, from a family perspective too, you know, you do have to set some boundaries as well. I know you guys were just talking about it there, but you know, how do you hire and fire family members? And at the end of the day, it is a business. I think that's just more of a fact. It's not like a necessarily like a feel good type of thing. It's like the business has to make money and be profitable to
Yeah.
keep going. And I think, yeah, just looking at the end of the day of more of just like a business, but you can have some of those incredible, great memories and great times while doing it as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, good. Well, Luke, I think that's a podcast, man.
Yeah,
Derek, thanks so much for your time.
that flew by. Dervin, that was awesome. Thank you,
Hey,
man.
That was
loved
great.
it. I loved it. And I'll keep listening to all you guys' information. Just keep doing what you guys are doing. Love to meet. Oh, I have to tell you this story. I wanted to meet you so bad at Con Expo and listen to your presentation, both of you. But I wanted to be at the presentation. So I think there was one time I didn't get to your presentation, but then there was like a panel where there was a bunch of you or something.
I think that was so Luke and we
I had a
both had
panel.
a couple things, and Luke had the panel. I had like the individual speaking presentation, and then we had a couple like live shows. So it was a little bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah. So anyway, I was thinking one of them, they expanded the room, and if you hadn't signed up ahead of time, you had to pay like $80 to get in the room or something. I was like, shoot.
Yeah, I'll tell you right away. I'm not worth $80, so I would have saved
Wow.
it. To you.
I was just like, shoot, I got to meet these guys sometime. But yeah, we'll have to connect up.
Have to get together.
sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be
No,
awesome.
that'd be fun. It'd be a great time.
So yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. We'll make it happen. Luke and I will come out to you, and then obviously we'll see you at a couple shows as well. But we'll make a special trip out there, and I think that'd be electric to come visit you, visit the whole family, and see the operation as well.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Be a blast.
Good
Awesome.
stuff. Well, that's a
Luke,
wrap
good
on
to
this.
see you.
Good to see you, Dervin. Always a
Yeah, Dervin,
pleasure.
thank you so
And
much.
this is a wrap on another Dirtbags episode.
All right, see you guys. It was great meeting.